Hey guys, Pete here. Welcome back to the playlist on proper HVAC pricing. We did video one last time where we talked about the difference of net profit pricing versus gross profit, time, material, and some of those other ones. So on this next one, we're going to be talking about what departmentalization of your overhead looks like. And so in order to give you an overview, now this is a paid training program, guys. There's a link below. But I wanted you to understand this should you just want to try this on your own. But this is one of the tools that I provide. This is actually the flat rate book only. It's very basic. But these yellow areas or beige areas is what you would actually fill in. But you fill out your overhead. So let me explain first of all that overhead is all of your expenses outside of direct costs that are assigned to a job. So if it was a repair, you'd have the technician's labor, you would have the parts that they purchased, plus sales tax on those parts. You would have fuel expense, that's a variable overhead, but we break that out separately. And we have any subcontractors or permits, anything that it takes to pay to get that job done directly is part of your overhead. Now, your financials may or may not break this out, but here's where we get hung up. Things like payroll. If you run payroll and you don't have the ability to break the office out from the field labor, then we have a little problem there. You're gonna have to manually do that. So the example here that we use on this one is, let's say we have an office person in here and he or she makes $36,000 a year. That would be part of overhead. But the field labor, the technician's labor, that's part of the job. Does that make sense? Okay. So on overhead, I've got this tool as part of the program, the paid program, if you want to do this, but you can kind of look over my shoulder here and see how it works. What I do though is, let's say for example, we want to departmentalize our overhead, which is what our goal is. I've set up these other three areas over here. This is your installation overhead, this is your service overhead, and this is your maintenance overhead. Those are the three departments that I have set up. You may have more, but it's really easy. We take the entire company's overhead, and then we just come through here and put a percentage to it. What is it actually costing? So if I have rent, for example, how much of that space, or let's say storage, maybe you have a storage building, how much of that space is actually assigned to your equipment for changeouts? How much would you be storing your service? Maybe you have a test bench in there or a service area. Maybe you have coil cleaner and you assign that to maintenance, possibly service. Maybe you have parts and refrigerant, pallet refrigerant. So that would be an example. Another one would be on that office person. How much time is he or she spending supporting the service department, scheduling service calls, receiving those service calls, supporting their service technicians, going over all the service invoices, process, whatever that entails, versus installation. So this is a really good way of doing this. You may already have this, but this tool just gives you an example. Now, on the more advanced, the actual program, let me see here. We have more than that. So we actually go into capacity and we talk about their owner operator salary and how we actually calculate that, because you think about it, the owner's draw is overhead unless they work in the field, and now you're going to have to kind of split that time up. So I give you a formula in the paid training to do that, but you can manually do that yourself. And also one of the things that you want to do, I've got it here in green, is advertising. Guys, you're going to have to figure advertising in your overhead. And I know you're not doing this right. You know you're guilty if I'm saying this and it's starting to bother you. So you want to be able to calculate that. So what we actually do is we put a calendar in here and we kind of project out how many service calls or leads we're going to have to purchase, and then we're going to come over here and actually come up with a true figure between SEO and our ad spend so that we have a true budget. And I can tell you, rule of thumb, just to maintain your company, about 5% of gross revenues. So if your business does $1 million, you need to be doing 5% or $50,000 in advertising just to maintain that. And in the tougher markets, you may have to spend a lot more. Now, if you are trying to grow, you're going to need to be spending more than 5%. You're going to be more like 10. So if you're a $500,000 company, you're spending $50,000 in advertising. If you're going to, and it's got to be good advertising. It can't just be anything. So that is a little overhead. I hope this makes sense. But when you do your overhead, we want it by department. And on your accounting side, we want everything departmentalized, your sales, your expenses, and everything else. Now, that's an accounting feature, and that's your chart of accounts, setting that up properly. But what we're talking about over here is separating these numbers, because we're going to go right to the exact dollar of what your overhead is for a service call, what your overhead is for a change out, and what your overhead is for an accessory or even a maintenance visit, specifically right down to the penny. And that's the way you do it. This GP method has served us in the past because you could guess at it. We can't guess anymore, guys. It's getting tough out there. So we need to know exactly what our overhead is, exactly what our capacity forecast needs to be. I'm going to walk you through this as best I can on this free version. So some of you guys out there just need a little bit of help, and you don't need to invest in the whole program. But the program is just the training. Everything uses free tools. This tool that you're looking at, it's Google Sheets. It's free. When I actually do the price books and everything else, let's look at here. This is Canva. This is free. You just use my template, right? And you can come in and actually put in your price books and your repairs and everything else. So that's the idea. We're going to be moving on. We handled departmentalization. So the next one, we're going to be talking about that vehicle variable overhead and how to break that out. Okay. So part of your vehicle expenses are fixed overhead, which is in what we just discussed. And part of them are variable, like fuel. It goes up and down with use, right? We get really busy, we spend more on gas. So I'll explain that one on the next video, and that will be video number 3. See you on the next one.